19% of the world's wild-caught seafood today is MSC certified. By 2030, the target is 30. Meanwhile, 40 million people depend on wild fishing for survival, and more than a third of world's fish stocks are already overfished. India is the world's second largest fish producer. So the question is not whether India matters. It is whether India is moving fast enough. Today, I'm speaking with Dr. Ranjit Suseelan, who heads MSc operations in India. Dr. Suseelan has 25 years of experience in fisheries, and he sits at the center of India's fifth conversation. Welcome, sir.
Welcome.
Good to have you, sir, to my podcast. And
Yes.
let's start with very important conversations around sustainability. Sustainability conversation has evolved in the last decade. So for people outside the industry, what does sustainably caught actually mean?
Thank you, Richa, for inviting me for the podcast. It's the right question. The first point you have asked. People talk about sustainability. We need to know what is sustainability caught. That means that fish that is caught in a way that doesn't deplete the species. The species you catch, you have a lot of fishery, you catch it, but make sure that it doesn't deplete the species. Or we can say it doesn't harm the ecosystem. Harm means in further we can discuss more about harm. And in finally, what is the objective of all this is we need to have fishery for the future generations. That is the main theory behind sustainability caught. So we can tell that the first one is healthy fish stocks, minimal environmental impact, and effective management. You have an effective management.
And I see that MSc has become central to driving these conversations. So, how has been your experience so far working in India?
MSc has started its work in India very long back. By 2011 onwards, 2010 onwards, MSc is there in India. And finally, during 2014, we got the first MSc certified fishery. Ashtamudi clam, we got certified. So India is capable of getting MSc fishery certified. Now, why MSc? It should be very clear that MSc is a science-based standard. It looks things in a global perspective. It looks at the stock sustainability. It looks at we can tell that ecosystem impact. It looks at fisheries management. Moreover, it does independent verification system. The audit is done by third-party auditors. MSc doesn't do any verification. It is done by third-party auditors like SDS, TUV, or BV, Bureau Veritas, Control Union. So the independent verification system is being followed. And we can also say that the main thing is it looks the full traceability chain. We call it chain of custody. Starting from the fishery to the end consumer. All the chains, the processors, the auctioneers, the processors, from processors to retailers to the final consumer. We can say that you can be a global retail option of full proof of sustainability. A customer goes there, he gets a full proof sustainability. So I think that is where MSc important comes. And India has been driving this, has been in this forefront for last, we can say around 8 years. It is behind bringing so many species into sustainable certification. And it is not only bringing the sustainable certification, we are into, we can say, awareness creation, capacity building, need of auditors for sustainable certification audits. So all these is being built up layer by layer. It is being built up in India through MSc certification requirement. Yes,
Right.
Richard.
Right. So, in the last decade, this concept of sustainability have evolved tremendously. I think because of the fact that the way the consumer, the consumer preferences have changed, and also the buyer requirements have changed, and also how India is at an inflection point where I would proudly say that India ranks sixth globally in marine capture, right, with 3.59 million tons, and 2.20 million square kilometer of exclusive economic zone. So, from your experience or from your global MSc lens, how do you feel that how is Indian seafood perceived by international buyers today on quality, sustainability, and trust?
Interesting question, Richard. Uh, Indian seafood stands first for quality. Our exporters are making the product in such a way that so hygienic, maintains the quality, and it is very strong and recognized by world over. So that's why we Indian exporters are the forefront of quality of all marine products. So we can say that we have a reliable and large-scale supplier orientation or buyer orientation because of our quality. Now, presently, mostly is value-added products, value addition, and compliance system to most of the legal regulations, export country regulations, and even many of the voluntary certification requirements is complied in India. So we can tell that India delivers good quality at scale with competitive pricing. We can assure that. Now, coming to sustainability, second part is sustainability. We are improving. We can tell we are work in progress. We are in progress. That is why all the fishery now are in FIPS. We have engaged, MSc has now engaged more than 12 fisheries, moving forward very strongly. And please note that all these fisheries are in comprehensive FIP. They are not basic FIPs. That means they are moving advanced. The increasing number of FIPs shows that we are in work in progress. MSc has already funded for 3 species as improvement program, improving, encouraging. As you know that most of the fisheries is supported by the industry. Industry is funding the sustainability program. In order to support them, MSc also supported with a lot of fundings to the industry through WWF, through CIFT, as scholarships for students, as ITM funding for MSc improvement program for deep sea fisheries. And that helps them, that money helps them to close the gaps. So we can tell that India is not fully certified yet, but They are work in progress to A grade certification. They are moving forward. We can tell that India is moving forward. India is. Can you repeat that question once more, please?
Yeah. So where does India actually sit on the global sustainable fisheries map? Is it ahead? Is it behind? Or at a different starting line altogether?
We can say we are around 40% ahead. 40% ahead. We are moving forward. We are moving forward. India is a developing country. We have a lot of limitations because most of the improvement programs, implementation stage is not an easy part. We are implementing a lot of things which requires legal changes, which requires government amendments to the existing rules need to be approved in the gazettes, and it need to be implemented. Implementation has to be monitored. All these things are happening, but India takes its own time and framework. But India is moving forward.
Okay, that's nice. That's great to hear because this podcast is also for our investors who are curious to know where India is heading in terms of complying with the international regulations, in terms of adhering with the traceable standards, and cause traceability is again a very very important topic that we will discuss in the later part of the podcast. So yes, India is at the center of this discussion, and indeed, it's always at the center of the discussion of all the Aquabeats podcasts. So moving forward, I remember that in 2010, right, we were thinking about setting up an organization like Sustainable Seafood Network of India, right? So, and before that, I know that because we have been in touch for so many years, and when you were here in India, um, you tried MSC tried to move PIPs without setting up a central organization, right? So why don't you talk about a little bit about how SSNI had come into the picture, and why was it the need of the hour to organize such a platform?
As I mentioned earlier, MSC came into existence in India by 2010 onwards. They were in India for sustainability drive, and 2014 we got Ashramadi Clam certified. During this time period, it was understood that who owns the sustainability movement? There should be some people who need to take up sustainability, who need to drive the show, who need to have keeping in mind a vision of taking sustainability from one issues from one place to another place. Who does that? Who does that? So that was one of the things which we had a major stakeholder meeting in 2017, where Richa, you were available. Most of the people were available, and all the stakeholders, processors, scientists, NGOs, state government officials, fish meal industry, all people were available at that time. And what the common opinion was, any sustainability issues come, maybe a buyer asks them a sustainable, when we can have a FIP, how to run a FIP, where they will take, whether they need MSC, whether they need Mary Trust for fish meal, whether they need Global Gap, whether they need BAP. So all these buyers' queries they did not have a common common area to ask. At that meeting, they decided that we need to have a common platform where we can put all the sustainability questions. And this platform will work free of cost for the processors or any buyers or the fishers or NGOs to find solutions for that, or connect with the concerned certifying agency, or connect with the concerned cab, or connect with the concerned government organization. That was the objective, to create such a organization. That organization was formed there at that meeting by where all stakeholders are involved. That was the formation of Sustainable Seafood Network of India. All the people who were there at that day are the members of that organization. They all agreed to be the member. There they selected the advisory board. Some of the people who are at the top of top people, they became the advisory board. And they nominated one person as the chairman of that. That's how this came into action. This Sustainable Seafood Network came into action. And now you can see that Sustainable Seafood Network basically coordinates and drives almost all the FIPS. The progress is measured. The BMT is measured. It's follow-up. See the bottlenecks. Talk to people in Delhi. Talk to people in different institutes. See how it works. That's how Sustainable Seafood Network functions. And now it has become a registered trust under Government of India. It is now also taking up some of the projects with some of the funding agency for supporting the sustainability works and moving forward. I think I answered your question, right?
Right, sir. So you mean to say that SSNI plays a very crucial role in ensuring that all the coordination that has to happen among the right stakeholders needs to flow in the right way, and without having a common platform, common organization like SSNI, all the coordination is next to impossible.
Exactly, Richa. There should be this is the organization, we can tell, which is, I told from beginning itself, which is not money oriented, just supporting the fishery, who wants the fishery to move towards FIP. It's the common objective is sustainability, and support all organizations who require sustainability. And it pushes the bottlenecks off. There are so many bottlenecks when we go forward, not one or two bottlenecks. There are more than 100, 150 bottlenecks which need to find solutions for it. And that can be done only by some of the experts who are in the field of fisheries for years, who have dedicated their life in fisheries for years. So such people only can help us to move forward. If we don't have such an organization, just like what you told earlier, some organizations are not able to move. That's the problem. They are not able to move because there is nobody to drive the show. Here, the seafood industry is pushed. And you also need to know that SSNI always have conduct two stakeholder meetings for these FIPS, yearly two stakeholder meetings to see where are we facing any problems, bring all the stakeholders together, discuss, finalize, and some of the FIPS we have already finished also. We can tell while telling other FIP, we can discuss about that.
Right. I think at this point in time, we should speak a little bit about FIP also, because I was thinking of taking this topic next in the next segment. But since we have touched upon it, let me ask you that for listeners who are new to FIP, could you explain in detail what is a FIP? And it is supposed to be a bridge between where a fisheries today and where MSc certification requires it to be, right? So, what is it? What is a FIP, and what is the fundamental objective of FIP?
FIPs are fishery improvement projects. As you know that any standard we have, any standards we have, we will be doing a gap assessment. If a fishery need to get certified, first thing is to see where our fishery lies. That is with respect to the concerned sustainability standard. It can be any, it can be MSc, it can be Meritus, it can be any standard. You need to do a gap assessment. This gap assessment is nothing but it is called as pre-assessment. Once the pre-assessment or the gap analysis is done, we know where the gap lies. So once you find out the gaps, we need to make an action plan to close these gaps. Just like you raise a non-conformity, NCR is being raised. You need to close that NCR. The same process. So we have an action plan developed for that particular gap, or we call it even NCR. We need to have a action plan for that particular gap. That action plan is developed, which should tell what are the actions to be completed, who will complete that, what is the time frame for that, and what are the records to be monitored. So these many parameters will come into that action plan. So MSc has more than 80 points to be checked. 80 points to be checked. If there are gaps, there will be many type of actions to be closed. Now, these actions to be closed, compiled together, forms a fishery improvement project. They are called as FIPS. And the common challenges what we face now is we have I can just tell you why we have this FIPS more in India. It's very simple that we have limited stock assessment data. We have so many species, but stock assessment data is limited. The governance is weak in certain places. There is no compliance systems. So you can get to know all these things. Bycatch, habitat impact concerns, we don't have information. Poor traceability. Now we all are working hard for traceability. The catch data, we don't know how the documentation part is functioning. So we can tell that poor traceability and documentation. Lack of harvest control rules is another issue. This is why we have a lump sum amount of FIPS coming up, because we need to close all these things one by one. We need to get it closed.
Right.
Okay.
So FIP is required because MSc standard is making sure that our stock is sustainable, right? And the process of ensuring that the stock is sustainable, we need to have fishery management plan. And
exactly.
So when fishery is not able to comply with the MSc standards, which in almost all the cases are not, because it is complex and it takes time, right? Hence, a FIP is designed based on the gap analysis, which acts as the pathway to achieve compliance. And this pathway is designed in such a way that we put some milestones where the progress that we have made is demonstrated at each step. That shows that the fishery is progressing, right? And that is why it needs to be collaborative, because it cannot be run by a single person.
Exactly. That is the area where I need to get focused on. In India, other than rest of the world, India FIPS are multi-stakeholder initiatives. It is not a single, people cannot do that. This in India, multi-stakeholder means who are the multi-stakeholder people? The fishers and vessel owners are involved. We have the trawl association incorporated into that. Processors and exporters are the stakeholders. We need NGOs like WWF, Dakshin. There are so many NGOs as technical partners. We need the fisheries department, fisheries department, government of India, and the state government fisheries department, because they are the implementers. We need the research institutions to carry out the data. SEMA4I has to do the stock assessment, need to develop the harvest, need to develop the fishery management plans. This developed fishery management plan has to be approved by Government of India, Department of Fisheries. We need to have the harvest control rules developed by SEMA4I. These harvest control rules need to be given to the state government to implement it, or to the regional governments to implement it. So we need stock assessment experts in the government institutions who need to do stock assessment continuously as a cycle. Is part of their job. It needs to run function. We need the buyers and retailers who are now, in some of the buyers are even funding the Seafood Exporters Association. We can call them as the funding partners. So that is why I told, in India, it is not like other countries, maybe other tropical countries or other European countries. No, India, it is totally different. It's a multi-stakeholder area where we involve a lot of people. And now I am coming back to your original question. What does SSNA do? SSNA bridge between all these stakeholders for doing all these things and connect with the people, connecting the people. There should be somebody to connect the people. And that's what is happening now. Now, even what does they do is they look at the work progress. What is happening now? Who monitors the work? Somebody should monitor. So SSNA look into some part of the governance. Though the clients are Seafood Exporters Association, most of the fishery, Seafood Exporters Association is the client, or we can tell the governance of that particular species. The technical backup is given by SSNA to them, what to do, how to do, where to do, who has to do it. If there is a bottleneck, which ministry we need to approach. SSNA is again, as I told earlier, the stakeholder engagement, bringing the people together yearly 2 times to bring them together. Fixing the timelines. If it is not finished within 1 year, what is the issue? Is it a funding issue? Then we will find out where the funding is required. Who will fund it? There are certain things when we take up risk issues. So who will do the risk management measures? Who will make the risk criteria for that? So these are some of the things. In addition to that, we can also tell that the technical institutions are more important. The FIP to be closed, we need continuous monitoring of the stock status. Now we have had a MOU with SEMA4I during 2019. We are supposed to finalize and get the report by 2023. Okay, we got it by 2024. We got the report. Now, till now, we are not able to implement because we don't have the harvest control rules. We don't have the fishery management plan not ready. Now it is 2026. But when we go for 2027, you feel that we are going for audit, for full assessment. They will ask us the stock assessment data from 2020 to 2026, which we lack. So these are the way how the things we need to think about. Now CFT is involved. You can see CFT, one of the major thing is bycatch reduction devices need to be there. Which type of mesh size need to be used? So why I am trying to tell is these are some of the multi-stakeholder requirements. And this funding is also for bycatch reduction. MSc has provided CFT for doing research on that particular bottleneck, which we need to get complied on. Even we are also looking at the traceability part now. where can be the traceability point of traceability starts from? All these things require multi-dimensional discussions and moving forward. And the seafood exporters of India has done Herculean job. They have taken the initiative. They have put a lot of efforts. They have put efforts, not monetarily, they have put efforts. Physically, they have put efforts. They even go outside, discuss with the funding partners. They discuss with the funding partners for giving funding. So a lot of things is done by the processes. I think so. I have told more than what you have required.
Yes, no, but this is very important section. And again, my podcast contains one small segment which revolves around the role of stakeholders and what are the bottlenecks that stops FIP's progress. Okay, so we will come back on that later. But in the meantime, let's just talk about the fifth pathway. And let me run one slide from your presentation. And through that slide, we will talk about the graduated development plan of how FIP progresses, with a step-by-step approach. Please take us through the pathway to sustainability as your slide rightly says.
Yeah, this is the same thing which I told you earlier. The first stage is nothing but the baseline. It's a gap analysis which I have told you. What is the fishery performance is benchmarked against the fishery standard and
So
identifies.
who does that? Who
It
does
is, that is done by an independent third-party organization like Control Union or third-party. Even technically qualified assessors are there. Qualified assessors, they are in the MSc website. You can see that who are the technically qualified assessors in India. Because and also globally for becoming a technical assessor in MSc, they need to pass several levels of exams. They need to pass level 1, level 2, level 3, then online exam, and need to be a part of assessor. Then they can go as an observer in a team, then has to be in the team for 3 or 4 fishery assessing. Then they go for a team leader. Then they become a technical assessor in the list of MSc website. In India, we have one assessor qualified for that, and rest all from other countries are there in the. But basically, coming back to a question, what are the stages? You can see the bottom one is nothing but the gap analysis, or we can tell that the current fishery performance is benchmarked against the fishery standard. That's MSc standard, MSc fishery standard. So what does it looks into? It looks into 3 principles: sustainable fish stocks, environmental impact, effective management. So these are the 3 things which look into. Coming to the second part is action plan development. So action plan development, what does it do? It looks into the activities. What are the gaps, identified gaps, will split up into the activities to be carried out for that particular action plan. For one action plan, there may be 10 or 15 or 20 activities to be completed to reach the objective. So each activity will be noted down. Each activity will be having a responsible person. Each activity will be having a budget to be carried out. Each activity will be looking into the measurable indicators. What are the indicators to be measured to see that this particular activity is accomplished? If it is an yearly target, what will be the target to be checked into? So that part, it is the toughest part. Action plan development and implementation is the toughest part. And implementation is it's a Herculean task. It's a Herculean task means which we are doing now. The India has the major problem is lack of awareness. Lack of awareness. We need to give lot of trainings, lot of capacity building, starting from the root level, fishers, even up to the ministry levels. We need to enlighten them about how the things are and what has to be done. Data collection systems has to be implemented. Traceability system has to be implemented. Policy engagement with the policy engagement and policy implementation with the government. In certain cases, we even have now gear modifications. Gear modifications, that is not an easy task. A gear has to be designed for reduced bycatch. It need to be accepted by the fishers. They need to get it convinced. It need to be accepted by the state fisheries department and the central government. So that is about the stage 3, and for that is the improvement program and ITM, where the people require funding and all this aspect. So a lot of funding required. MSC has funded, a lot of other funding agency funds, even the buyers fund for all these things, improvement programs. That once that is done, only the action plan gets closed, or a particular item get closed, then only. Then come the certification part. This is the pre-certification. What all you have seen down is the pre-certification space.
So how much time does it take to do the pre-assessment and then action plan?
Pre-assessment is very easy. It depends on the fishery. If it is a simple fishery, within a month you can get pre-assessment done. If it is a complicated fishery, it may take 2 or 3 months. For Ashramadi clam, it takes only 1 month. But in case of shrimp fishery, it took 3 months. So you can see how complicated the systems are. So pre-assessment is timeless, but action plan development, implementation is the toughest part. That is called the FIPS. And where it requires a lot of funding. No, government cannot fund all the things. We need funding from external support. We need support from government, from the state government to fund the research and things to go up. That's what I told at the beginning itself. If India wants to position themselves as the top leader in sustainability, we need to do all these things. So sustainability is not a word. It is the way of life, how it is implemented, and how we need to position India. And this pre-certification is the toughest part. It takes a lot of time. Then it goes for the full certification part. We have not reached the full certification status except for tuna. Tuna, we are finished the pre-assessment space. Now it is ready for full assessment. For full assessment is also independent. It is carried out by independent assessment bodies, along with our stakeholders and industry. It doesn't stop there. Every year you have the surveillance audit. Up to 5 years you have surveillance audit. After the 5th year, you need to go for recertification. So it is a continuous process. Continuous process, checking where our stock lies. Is it at a level which is going at a maximum sustainable yield level, or we are not depleting, we are going in a good way.
Right. So if I come to you and ask you, request you to register me as a FIP, is there a protocol that you adhere to?
There is no protocol to be adhered to. You need to do, this pre-certification space, which I told you earlier, you need to do a gap assessment. You need to develop an action plan. Then you will enter into the FIP. But first, initially, when a person approaches me, I will ask him that you send me a mail. Let me check I will send it to SSNI, and we will have a discussion over it, that particular species which need to be carried out. Then we need to make something we call it as mapping the fisheries. The fishery has to be mapped. Now you imagine Richa has come forward with me with wild caught Pinnace monodon to be certified. We need to map the fishery. There is a format where we need to collect all the informations available by a technically sound person who can tell where the stock lies. Imagine if the mapping shows that the particular species, Pinnace monodon, selected by Richa, is overfished. You can never enter into a FIP. If the particular species selected by Richa shows that this Pinnace monodon is at a maximum at a good sustainable yield and not overfished, then the next step starts. Then we can ask for going for a pre-assessment. So the pre-assessment question next come is, who is going to fund for the pre-assessment? Who is going to carry out the pre-assessment? Richa will tell that, okay, I will fund. I have money for that. I will do that. Then you become the client for that fishery. And the particular species, we will give you the number of caps involved, certifying bodies involved. We will tell you these are the certifying bodies in the list. These are the technical experts. You can select whichever people from this list. You can ask quotations from these gaps or the technical experts. And out of that, which quotation fills your requirement, means your budgetary requirement, you can select that. And you go for a pre-assessment. Once pre-assessment is completed, you can ask that same people itself to prepare the action plan preparation. Once you have the action plan prepared, then we can call for a stakeholder meeting, that's where SSNI will be helping. You bring these two things to SSNI and tell that we need to have a stakeholder meeting to be implemented for this particular species. They will start contacting CMFRA, CAFT, the concerned fishers who are involved, conduct a stakeholder meeting, and the CAB will be presenting all the findings. There we will discuss how to close these particular issues. So an action plan will be developed there in front of the stakeholders.
With SSNI involvement.
It's with the help of SSNI. So once the stakeholder is involved, see, MSC will be there, but MSC will be behind the scene supporting all these things, helping. Because we cannot take the steering. Steering cannot be held by MSC. It is held by some other people. It can be SSNI. In some cases, it is Seafood Exporters Association. So you will be driving. We will be the fuel to push the vehicle.
And when is the time when we actually put that fishery under the public forum?
Once the action plan is developed and the day when implementation starts. So who decides the implementation? The client decides the implementation. The client should have the required fund. The client has to find whether they have the required fund for maintaining a FIP manager or someone. Then they should have some efficient fund for some research activities and all these things. Then only they will upload into the system for being in a FIP. Otherwise, the FIP will be dead. It will be a dead FIP. It will not be progressing. This is what, Richa, you told me around 50% of the FIPs are dead. The FIPs are dead because they the client doesn't have the fund, or they just want to be in the system to show that they are functioning.
And that's where the complication starts to happen, right?
Exactly.
So my question is, we have spoken about the journey of how FIP
Mhm.
takes place, right?
Mhm.
Now let's talk about the species in India that have been prioritized
Mhm.
under MSC.
Oh,
And what are the factors that you and other stakeholders have taken into consideration while prioritizing those species?
okay. That's what I told you earlier. The prioritization based on the market. We wanted to know that is why we had a major discussion over that in the major stakeholder meeting during 2016 and 17, where we talked about the market, which are the marketable species which required by the exporters for having a sustainability drive. This is because in India, the fishery mooted for sustainability is by the exporters, means the processors. We can also tell that they were supported by the buyers from the outside. So basically, they had a list in their mind. So they selected the list, put it into the list, and then semaphore scientists were there. They were looking into the health status of the species because it was decided on the spot. The particular species, oil sardine. Oil sardine scientist was there. Okay, is it a healthy species in the which state they required? Or Indian mackerel, or pomfrets, or theaseer fish, where you wanted all these things. So every people decided there itself that this is a healthy species, there is no issue, and we can move forward. The next question asked was whether this particular species was under pressure or fishing pressure, or they are going down in the fishery. So all that were there discussed because all the scientists were available, and it was prioritized like that. Around 30 species were prioritized during that time. And out of these 30 species was selected. Then out of that, the first 10 species was selected for priority 1, and the 10 species were given for mapping. And mapping was done by semaphore scientists. There is a format for mapping. And finally, they come down and tell about the status of the fishery and everything. Is it eligible to move forward for a fishery assessment? This is how the first lot of fishery was selected. So the first it came through the buyer, through the exporters. Exporters wanted these species. It was discussed in the common stakeholder meeting, looked at the health status of the fishery, looked at the pressure of fishery, how it is, and other many parameters were discussed over there. Then the project, what do you call, mapping was done for the particular species by the concerned scientist. Then the fishery enters for assessment.
Okay, so we have a slide here and which says that we have prioritized 30 species, out of which 13 species are pre-assessed and 10 species are already under FIP. Let's talk about those 10 fisheries in FIPS. My question to you is, let us talk about all those 10 fisheries and how much time did it take for us to kind of register all those 10 fisheries?
So, you see, we can see here the first fishery is a gillnet caught blue swimming crab from Park Bay. So this Petronas pelagicus. The main thing was, even if we find the species, we need the client who is going to fund for the pre-assessment. So the first thing was to bring all the processors together. Crab meat processors were convened together. We made several meetings with them, to convince them, to train them to be a group, to be a team. That is why in the first thing in our discussion, I told it is a teamwork. Nobody alone cannot run a FIP. A FIP can be done by a group, only it can be done. We need to be together. No one cannot do anything alone. So that business mentality of the people of working alone has to be stopped. Seafood is a common property. Anybody can use it.
Well
So
said.
this is the thing which all the people need to keep it in mind. And that was the first thing which we took into action, bringing the people together. We brought all the like-minded people together. We asked in that meeting, who are the crab meat processors, meters. We all took them together in one group. We kept them, we noted them and kept them separately. We convened several meetings, several trainings, several awareness programs on how to do, what will be the things. The good thing of these people, crab meat processors, were they had external funding from NFI Council. They already had funding. They wanted to know how to move forward. And that moving forward is what we taught them how to move forward. So we brought the Crab Meat Processors Association as a team. We asked them to register themselves as a group, bring the fund to India through FCRA regulations, bring it, and they started their work. But it is not an easy process, to bring a team together, like-minded, putting money together, bringing external funding, it always takes time. And they are moving forward very fast. Second one was we had around, we can see trawl Karikadi shrimps, that is Parapinopsis stylifera. The three highlighted are deep sea shrimps, Utmasoni, Changi, and Aristeus alcoki. These are deep sea shrimps. You have Metapinus dobsoni. You have Indian squid, duasili. You can have cuttlefish, that is Scipia feronis, and octopus. So these many species were taken up by Seafood Exporters Association. So we had several rounds of association to bring who are the like-minded people for what. Finally, we categorized around 27 exporters and 3 external buyers as one group for Kerala shrimp and cuttlefish. So that involved Parapinopsis stylifera, Metapinus dobsoni, squid, and cuttlefish and octopus. All that became a group. We termed it Kerala Shrimp Cuttlefish Sustainability Forum. And these fishers became a client under Seafood Exporters Association. And they funded for their particular all these species. It also required several rounds of meetings to train them, to educate them, what are the things to be done, how to do, and what will be the bottlenecks, how to manage the bottlenecks. All these things, these all were discussed, and these all were done by SSNI. And the next group was the deep sea, 3 species, Heterocarpus, 2 species, and Aristeus alcoki, 1 species. So these were by like-minded people who does only deep sea shrimps. So there were around 7 exporters. They became the group. They wanted to run the show. The problem with this group was their funding was less because there were only 7 people. So that in order to progress that part, MSC also put fund. MSC put around 1 crore Indian rupee for supporting this deep sea fishery because their people were only 7 people. Crab meat processors had NFI funding. The other funding group, they were 27 or 28 were there. So they had the fund. So that exactly like that, all the things were done under discussions with several meetings and things, it moved forward. And now the new fishery, you can see here last, thread fin being fishery, that is for surmi processors. So it was initially done alone by Gadre Exports. Arjun Gadre, done by himself. He spent money, he did the pre-assessment, and he found it difficult to run the implementation part. That time, what we did was we brought together all the surmi processors together. We went to Mangalore, we went to Gujarat, we went to Ratnagiri. We convened a major meeting where we brought around 6 processors together. Now it became 12 processors, Surmi processors. They have already put a budget of 3 crores for their own, this particular species, and they added 3 more species to that. So this is how the system functioned. And it is not 10 now, it is more than 10. You can see here grouper 6 species was initiated by Walmart. Walmart was the initiating group, but Walmart, when they visited the factory, Indian factory, they were from Kanyakumari, they were not impressed by the factory. So they told several modifications to the factory in Kanyakumari to change. So it is under hold, because only after that, Walmart will be funding for this grouper.
Okay.
Tuna pollen line already completed. The FIP is completed. And now they are with the Indian government for going for full assessment. They have taken up. Then you can see here Ashtamadi clam is also taken up by the seafood exporters, especially Amalgam Group has taken it up, and WWF has now completed the pre-assessment, and now Amalgam is going to fund for the full assessment. Chilka mud crab was taken up by MSC itself, has taken up with the support of Central Inland Fishery Research Institute and Ocean Stewardship Funding. The pre-assessment and action plan is completed, but it has not entered FIP because we don't have the client yet ready. This is the status.
So which fishery out of all these that we have discussed is likely to obtain MSC certification by?
We are expecting squid and at least 1 shrimp to get certified.
By this year?
Not this year, but we were pushing for last year, but it gets, because as I told earlier, the fishery management plan has to be completed by government institutes. The harvest control rules has to be prepared by the government institutes. Once it is done, only we can have the rules to be implemented, because the government institutes takes time in preparing all the reports and things because of many issues and things. It doesn't happen at the right time.
Is it complicated or is it lack of manpower?
I don't know about our government institutes. Is it because of land power? We can only discuss with them for the requirements. I don't know their internal matters, what happens.
And how long should it take to prepare a fishery management plan?
See, if they have all the data, all the things, it's matter of 2 months or even 1 month if the fishery is not complicated to make a fishery management plan.
And how long it took in this case?
We have not yet received any fishery management plan or anything.
It's been how many years or months?
It's already now the assessment was completed by 2019. The MOU was given to Semaphore. It got implemented after 2020, 21 or 22 got the MOU signed. So you can see the gaps. So that's the government delays are there, which has to be looked by the concerned authorities. We don't know the reasons why. We cannot tell why it is like that. But this is one of the thing in India which delays the process. If you compare to other countries, Indonesia and other countries, other global south countries, there the department and institutes drive these shows. You keep this in mind. The ministry drives it. And here, the ministry is not driving what you call exporters are driving, and can say that these delays are delaying their competitiveness of their product in the global market. At my first meeting, I told our objective is to keep India on the top of sustainability. These are the things which has to be considered by the authorities at the beginning. In order to keep India at the top, we need to see that the central government institutes do the mandated jobs fast and support the industry. Why we have the industry, why we have the government institutes and all these things? It's to support the industry. It is to support the fishery, to maintain, to see where the fishery lies. We we are not telling that the industry, the government institutes should work for the industry. No, they should publish the data which is required, which is mandated in their job, has to be published and come out. That publishing is enough for many of our fisheries to move forward. If we have a management, these are the governance issues which who need to follow up, and all these things. Even I don't know in the government sector. I think I don't want to tell more about the issues with the government because I am not involved in that. But the fact is, my only thing is, in order to position India at the top, we need support of all people, including government, to see that we be at the top.
Right. And I have read that, I've got to know that our government is soon publishing the version second of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana scheme uh, with 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 the right policy frameworks that will address the gaps that we spoke about. And I also do agree that there has been policy gaps because of which there has been delays. However, um, our ministry have been new, and this time um, to be able to align with our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's goal to make India self-sufficient by 2047 and also to help our industry increase the foreign exchange earnings. I feel that this is the time when India is gaining momentum. The ministry is getting stringent on sustainability, and I hope that in the new version of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, we will be able to address all these crucial gaps that we spoke about. And I hope that by next year, we should see some progress in terms of having few fisheries getting certified as per MSC standards.
Yes, Richa, that is what even I also feel. We need to, because it's all the people who have put money into the system are extremely tired because of follow-ups and things. Because they have not put one or two money, they already put around 10 crores into the system. It's their hard-earned money. It's not the government's money. It's their hard-earned money which they have put into the system. So it needs to be respected by all people, including even we all are responsible for that. And the government also should feel that they need to be compensated by compensated by supporting them.
Right.
Anyway, let's see. Everything happens good. The Matsya Yojana helps in helping the processes and achieving the goals, achieving the thing, and positioning India at the top position.
Right. So first question to understand MSc core principles.
Second,
Second is I want to understand when you talk about your principles, please highlight this that how stock assessment must be species focus because the three categories that we have, demersal, pelagic, and deep sea, they differ in growth, maturity, movement, habitat, and also recovery potential is different. So, how the data for stock assessment varies in these three categories,
Hmm.
uh, and in data limited fisheries, what is their role to evaluate whether the fishery has enough information, whether they can monitor the stock or do they manage it properly? Like what work goes into that?
Okay. Yeah, MSc Principle 1 is about the stock status. Where does the stock lie and all these things we need to know. Second principle says about the environmental impact. Uh, how does it affect not only the environment but also other species related income related to that fishery. And the third one is effective management measures are available or not. So these are the three framework on which MSc principle works on.
Right. And I want to understand how stock assessment is done. Is it done specifically based on species? Because we have three categories of marine fishes. One is demersal, pelagic, and deep sea. So, how the stock assessment is done based on three different categories, and how the data collection for stock assessment varies for these three categories that we spoke about.
Basically, in India, stock assessment is basically done by Central Marine Fishery Research Institute. They are the only authorized institute in India to give the stock assessment data for future discussions and decisions. And they do majority or assessed marine stocks are currently, we can tell, are biologically at sustainable level. I can tell you the data around the latest report, which tells in the Semaphore data tells is around 87% is sustainable. I think so. I have to look at the exact data and figure from their side. Basically, that is how Semaphore does all the things. They look at the health status of the fishery. As I told you earlier, they look at the health status of the fishery, whether they are optimally exploited or they are sustainable. And some of the Semaphore data which tells is some of the uh, optimally exploited stocks are sardine, Indian mackerel, pomfret, searfish, some of the tuna species, snappers, dolphin fish, shrimps are exploited. And some of the, we can tell some of the overexploited and extinct fisheries are also there. Like deep sea fisheries, Purulus severely is already gone from our fishery. That's all because of unregulated fishery. It has already been exploited. Uh, what about the next question, please?
So we spoke about the 10, 12 species that we
Oh.
have, that we have prioritized under MSC framework. What is the current broad status of India's stocks? Like which category appear healthy, which are under pressure, and which need greater scientific attention?
Out of the fishery which the latest which we have seen is Heterocarpus changi or Udmasoni is unhealthy status. Rest all are healthy status. So basically, that fishery we will not go for certification process. That have because that is the latest report given to seafood exporters by Semaphore, where we found that that particular species is unhealthy. So that will not go for MSc assessment. Rest all species which we highlighted are under healthy status. Healthy status.
Hmm. Right. So I'm just quoting one statement. So MSC Principle 1 requires a healthy stock, and stock assessment must be species specific, right? Because all three categories behave completely differently. So where is India's science strong, and where are the blind spots?
Uh, India, we have stock assessment reports coming out for some species regularly. It is being coming out, but we don't have stock assessment report for all species, and it should be continuous, which is not happening now. That is why we have lack of data for for making the assessments ready and decisions to be made. That has to be available.
How data for stock assessment varies for these three different categories of marine species?
Okay, coming to the availability of scientific data for pre-assessment and not pre-assessment, for stock assessment. Basically, for stock assessment, we need the catch and effort data. We need the length and age data, catch per unit effort data. We need the bycatch information data, habitat interaction data. These are, I am all clubbing this with our assessment requirements. I am not just telling about stock assessment alone. I am telling in view of the three principles I have told. The principle one, in order to have the stratify the stock assessment, you need to have catch and effort data, length and age group data, bycatch information data, habitat interaction data. You should have the management measures available. So these are some of the management measures available. Means if we have some management measures implemented or which are feasible to be implemented, like seasonal closures, like bans, we should have mesh size regulations, which we are implementing now in Kerala, which is being implemented. Effort limit, the catch effort limit is this. Effort should be only this much number of boats required. Area closures, that also we are doing in now doing in Kerala. We are doing bycatch mitigation measures. We are doing now instead of square mesh, instead of diamond mesh, we are going for square mesh. These are all for reduction of bycatch and all these things being implemented. What is the other thing?
How much of India's current challenge is overfishing, and how much is weak management, and how much simply not having the data?
That is what I told. The semaphore data let us show that around 85 or 86% is sustainable. Oh, the fishery are sustainable. So it's their data. We can, as I told you earlier, we can rely only on semaphore data. The stock assessment data of on sampling collection data of semaphore is one of the world's best data collection procedures. Stratified sampling technique, which is used by semaphore in all the maritime states and coming to a centralized hub in central marine fishery is one of the finest data, and we rely on their data. And they, according to them, it's 85, more than 85% is sustainable. Means it's sustainable.
What is overfishing?
Which is caught beyond the potential. Imagine you have a potential of 10,000 metric tons and you have fished a fish of 15,000 tons. So fishing. Just simple. It's a simple in simple words.
So it means when we are fishing beyond the maximum
Sustainably.
sustainability.
Or potential, or you can tell even the potential.
So as per the FAO data, um, in 1960s, we used to consume around 10 kilos per year. Now it has doubled to almost 20 kgs per year, right? And while the population is growing and it is going to increase to almost 10 billion by 2050, um, is it right to say that our oceans are under a growing pressure apart from climate change and pollution? Is it also under pressure from overfishing?
We can tell that the requirement of the human population in the coming years will be the food scarcity. That's
Hmm.
why the union government is pushing for food, more food, more production in India to need to produce by ourselves. In marine sector or fish, you can say fishery sector, marine fishery has reached a plateau. We need to maintain that plateau. If not, it goes down. If it goes down, we most of the fishery will be extinct from the Indian seas. And that plateau, when it is managed, the gap is managed by aquaculture. That's why the domestic aquaculture has now increased momentum. Government is supporting aquaculture. Lot of aquaculture, inland aquaculture, sea cage aquaculture to cater the requirements of domestic population. That's why the Pradhana Mantri Matsya Yojana supports a lot of fishers, not fishers, farmers, for going ahead with the RAS system, biofloc system for fishers, increasing the fish production.
So that means we have reached a tipping point where we cannot keep producing fish, putting our planet at risk.
Yeah, we have to now, we need to sustainably manage the systems. That's why we need to implement all these measures. It is the right time for us to implement. And how much we go late, that much the pressure will be on the fishery. The fishery has to sustain now. And we need to be sustainable. That's why we are doing all these frameworks, all these things are required for that. The governance should be strong now. We have to have strong governance.
And that is why we need to have good fisheries management, because
Exactly.
gathering data on how many fish can be caught without impacting the ecosystems, and put catch restrictions if population starts to decline. Can you talk about the story of Ashtamuti clam? Why it didn't complete the fifth, and uh, what is your take on that?
Ashramudi clam was the first certified fishery. They finished the fifth. They got full certification by 2014. They got certified. 5 years they managed the certificate. 5 years, Government of India supported the certificate. After that, the Government of India supported means every year the surveillance audit was supported by MPDA. Then, after that, we had COVID. After COVID, we need to do recertification. The recertification amount, Government of Kerala promised, but at that time, COVID came. We were not able to carry out because of COVID. My money was diverted for COVID works. Then 5 years gap. Within that 5 years gap, there was flood. In Kerala, there was a heavy flood where a lot of stock had depletion. Because that was one of the, lot of calamity was there in that human calamity also, and fishery stock in Ashtamadi Lake got changed. But now it recovered, everything recovered. Only by last month, we got the pre-assessment completed. because this many gaps, it's around 10 years gap became after assessment. So we need to again do a pre-assessment to see where we are. So only some small gaps were found, and it was done by WWF India. WWF India was funding that project. Now we need to see if the client goes for full assessment. The client is Amalgam Group.
Okay. So India currently produces roughly 17.3 million tons, and marine capture fisheries share is 25% in the total seafood landing share. Um, India can play an important role in both feeding the world and protecting ocean wealth, because India is the world's second largest fish producer. Right?
Yeah.
Sector also supports about 3 crore fishers and fish farmers. And India's fish production rose to 195.75 lakh tons in the financial year 2024-2025 from 95.79 lakh tons in financial year 13-14. So in 10 years, we have grown this much. Right. So I want to understand from you how India's story matters in responsible capture fisheries, as much as it matters in aquaculture, because aquaculture will do the heavy lifting, as global seafood story is more about the farm fish.
Can
So
you
question.
concise question? You need to make
Yeah.
the question short.
Yeah. So I would like to know, on one hand, India uh, is India, on one hand, India has demonstrated potential growth of fish production over the last decade, right? And on the other hand, we have India's policy reforms on the way, with Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana version 2 getting soon launched with policy frameworks. How India matters in responsible capture fisheries, given the fact that aquaculture will continue play a significant role in feeding the growing population. So, how much India's story matters in responsible capture fisheries?
See, as I told earlier, India capture fishery is now, as I told earlier, it is at a stagnant level. It is going at a slight increase level. It is going. We need to think more about, more than volume. We need to think the value getting out from the capture fishery. The value added products coming from from the capture fishery. How all we can capitalize the existing volume with more value added products, with more labeled products, more money, get income to the country. There you cannot, you have a limit. You cannot increase beyond certain limit the production. But you can increase your revenue by maintaining our core capabilities. What is our core capability? As I discussed earlier, India's quality is the best. It stands first. In terms of quality, wild fishery, capture fishery is still the best. Sustainability, yes, we are working on. Value added production, yes, India is at the forefront in most of the value added products. We are competing with many countries like Vietnam, like Indonesia, China. We are competing with most of the countries for quality and things, but we stand at the first for quality. and sustainability, and even now traceability part also is getting clear in every part. Aquaculture also need to maintain that quality, because most of the aquaculture produce also is going not only catering Indian scenario, but catering exports also. So aquaculture has to maintain their quality and safety of the product, food safety of the product, just like what capture fishery does. So the role of responsibility is there for farmers to see how the quality and food safety issues are maintained in the farm, so that
Right.
our reputation doesn't get damaged in the global scenario. But we can increase our production without without tampering the wild fishery. You increase the internal production.
Right. So you rightly said that it is not about volume anymore. So it is not about just more fishing, but better marine management, plus ensuring that we focus on internal production, because even small efficiency gains can matter at global scale. And if we look at the marine fish production, it rose from 34.76 lakh tons in 2021 to 44 lakh tons in 2023, showing that the marine segment is still expanding. But again, we should not focus on more fishing, but focus on how to do sustainable fishing.
Exactly.
Okay, so Dr. Ranjit, I want to move to something harder now. We have already spoken about fishery improvement projects, how it is designed to be a success, and they are meant to be collaborative, also transparent at the same time. Um, but there's a real debate in the industry right now about whether FIPS are actually working the way they are supposed to. And I want to put some of that debate on the table with you right now. SFP's own data suggests roughly 59% of global FIPS are not improving on the ground. That's a big number. What's your honest read on why and where does India's picture sit inside that number?
First thing is, let us know more about MSC and SFP. For local people, for simple people, in simple terms, MSC
Yes.
is Marine Stewardship Council. It is a certification and eco-labeling program which has set standards, verifies the sustainable fisheries. Now, what is SFP? Sustainable Fisheries Partnership. It's an NGO focused on improvement and transparency tools, especially through fishery improvement programs. So this is the first thing which we need to understand. So what is the core difference? What is the core difference between the two? MSC sets fishery standards. It has fishery standard. It also has a traceability standard that is called chain of custody standards. It conducts independent verification system through independent CABs or third-party certification bodies. It has an eco label printed. You have seen the eco label printed in the every this thing. Focus on verified sustainable outcomes. So end goal of MSC is nothing but the fishery is certified as sustainable with respect to certain standards. SFP. SFP, to my thing is, they have fishery programs, fishery improvement programs, and industry engagement. they have some type of fishing scoring systems based on their research, publications, and things. They have fishery scoring system. We call it fish source scores. We call it fish source scores, and they directly work with supply chain and retailers, driving improvements with them. So basically, it's a fishery. The fishery improves with this type of fishery scores. It improves, but there is no certification. There doesn't have a certification scheme. Is it clear, Richa, for you?
Yeah, so again, I want to. Do you agree? Do you agree with me that that this statement made by them, which says that 59% of global FIPS are not improving on the ground? How far do you agree with this statement?
I can say I'm not telling about the global scenario. I'm telling about Indian scenario. We had Ashtamudi clam, the real fact which I have seen with my eyes. The stock has managed for 5 years. It was 10,000 metric tons. It got managed for 5 years, 10,000 metric tons. Even there was a slight increase also from the potential. From the potential. Now, what about the value of the stock? Initially, they were getting only 20 to 30 rupees per kg. Finally, at the 5th year, they were getting around 190 to 200 rupees per kg for the fishers, direct fishermen. So this is the example. This is a very simple. I don't know about global scenario and global. This is the fact which we are seeing in India. We have seen in India. And this will be same for other fisheries in India also. Why people are behind FIPS in India? All credible FIPS. They are getting some value out of it because they know that Indian fisheries are moving towards FIPS. Several buyers, they come, they send mail to us whether this particular company is involved in the sustained fishery, in the sustainable framework, so the sustainable works. Means they're getting a premium price. I don't know how much they are getting, but they're getting a premium price. Why fish meal is increasing now? Why they're coming, why they're fighting for being in the FIP? Because they're getting value out of it.
So greenwashing is one of the terms which is being used nowadays by the sustainability advocates. Um, does it really mean that certification bodies and sustainability advocates are transparent enough and credible enough to claim that the progress that we see is actually genuine?
I would like to tell that if you have looked at the list of fishery which MSC is moving forward, is all based on certain discussions with scientific institutes, selection of the species. It's a big process. And after a big process, they go for comprehensive audits, not basic FIP or anything. And they go for comprehensive audit and follow meetings every monthly meetings and stakeholder meetings, yearly 2 meetings. The only purpose of MSC is to see that the fishery gets certified and see that India be in the global position. Our objective is to work with the fisheries, for the fisheries, and see that we bring India to the top objective what we want to be. As I told earlier, we want to be India to be placed at the position 1 in the global world in sustainability. For that, there is no greenwashing word, which basically I don't like that word. And that's for easy people who people want to be in the FIP, just be in the FIP for short time to make money. Our objective is not that. Already Indian seafood industry has put more than 10 crores. And that 10 crores is not for just greenwashing, because they want the system to be perfect. They need the industry to sustain, be in the field for the next coming generation. For another 20 or 30 years, they need to sustain. I think I have answered your question, right?
People say that certification has become a paper trail and it restricts market access for small scale fishermen rather than opening it. And it undermines the very people it claims to serve. What's your honest answer on that?
Certification that depends upon the client. The client says his certification needs to be only for a FIP, just for a FIP, so that I get money during that time. It remains only in paper. That's right. It remains only in paper. But a genuine people who wants to be the fishery to be certified, think about India globally, they will go for comprehensive FIP, get it certified. They spend money over it to see that India position comes up. They can compete with the world with the certified product. So,
how do we ensure that FIP includes small scale fishermen as the core decision makers?
now I'll tell you one thing. All the fishery now, MSC going ahead is involving the small scale, the fishers are involved. Without fishers, we cannot move forward. I told you at the beginning itself, the bottom line is the fishers. The people who to implement is them. Without involving them, there is no meaning in going forward. That's why in our stakeholders, the trawl association is our integral part. Gillnet operators is the integral part. In every state, you can see the association is the integral part. Unless they agree with the processes, unless they agree with the scientists, they will not do it. So basically, they are part of the consortia. This is why I told it's a multi-stakeholder involvement. Without fishermen, nothing will go. They are the first people to be with us.
So, how do we make sure that the process, the FIP process is transparent enough where we get to see that the fishermen are included?
In every meeting, we have stakeholder meeting. We invite the fishermen representatives to be there. We look their time, their involvement, and that is where we present the data. Their opinions are taken into account. Even in Kerala, we have the Fishermen Council. Government even discuss with them. Fishermen Council is discussed. It goes to the local committee. It goes to the district level and goes to the state committee. Finally, the bottom fishermen opinions are coming even up to the top. If the fishermen say it is not possible, it will not happen. Now we are at the stage of implementation of square mesh. The discussion is happening at long process. It's not an easy process. We need to convince them. It's not me convincing. It is the scientists, CFT scientists are convincing the fishers. Several round of discussions. Their apprehension, juvenile catch is excluded. Yes. What about their catch? How it is getting compensated? There are a lot of questions and discussions going on. Without fishermen involvement, nothing will happen. Then forget, if you have no fishermen involved, forget about sustainability. Then it will be just, as you told earlier, it will be a greenwashing.
Right. There is a view that certification bodies, or I would say the sustainability advocates, should first study India's ecosystem first and consult the government of India before applying standards designed for other countries. Is there a merit in that critique?
There is There is. Basically, most of the studies, see, I have told that MSc certification is a science-based certification. And the science-based certification is based on several studies. It is the standards are not made just by two or three people sitting and making. It is based on several research papers all over the world. The tropical data are incorporated. Several processes are done. Assurance processes are done. Then only the standard comes out. Several times we had discussion about the tropical fishery in our area. Even I had discussed, and based on that, they have made several changes in the version 3. Version 3, there are several changes, and now we have tools. There are several tools raised to mitigate the tropical fishery issues to be handled. So the auditors who are well experienced know which tool to be used for this tropical fishery. It is now people just look at the standard, but no, a real expert auditor will have several tools which are developed by MSc for this type of fishery. What type of tool should be used for the particular thing? So the tools has to be used by the auditor. If an auditor is from a temperate country and he doesn't know how to use tools for tropical situation, then it will be a catastrophe. That's why we always recommend certain certifying bodies. Once we get their quote, it will be sent to me. I will verify it. I will send to SSNI again to verify the quote, whether everything is incorporated, the tools are incorporated, everything incorporated. Then only we approve, we tell or recommend for approval. That's why we are sitting here. That's my job. So a person sitting in Ireland or UK or somewhere cannot simply audit India unless they understand the framework where they work. They should feel what's Indian scenario. In Ireland, there may be only 10 boats operating for a fishery. But in India, we have 3,000 boats for a small fishery. So we need to address so many things. They use multiple gears. Here, we use multiple gears. How we are going to handle the catch, how the data is interpreted. All these, now MSc has tools to manage.
What are the two or three indicators that tells us that fishery is genuinely improving on the ground, not just on paper?
There are, see, again, I will tell, in MSc, we have BMT, benchmarking tools. Each year, we make the fishery, we can see the fishery benchmarking tools. We have a target of 1. We can see the progress. Every year we can see the progress. If there is no progress, means there is some problem which is not increasing the BMT. So every year, one of my job is to track the BMT. I'm tracking. From here, I'm tracking. And we are now placing the BMTs in the SSNA website. It will be shortly coming for every fifth, the BMT will be there. BMT graph will be there. You can see the progress. It's slow. The progress is slow, but it's happening. You know why it is slow? Because of the government systems implementation, it takes time, but it is slowly growing.
If FIP doesn't move, is it right to blame government alone?
No, we cannot blame the government. Again, I will tell. We have to see what are the bottlenecks. Simply blaming the government will not happen anything. It may be a fisherman issue because fishermen may be not accepting to implement. Government cannot do anything. We need to call all the people, convince them. First thing is you need to identify what is the bottleneck. Second thing is how to mitigate that bottleneck. For that, you need to have convened several round of stakeholder meetings, which need to be funded by someone. A stakeholder meeting cannot be simply conducted. Who will fund that stakeholder meeting? Several rounds of stakeholder meetings, and finally only they will approve that. That may be the reason why it is stagnant. We cannot simply blame the government. Government, maybe some factors may be there, which we need to again discuss with the government.
Okay. So when seafood moves through a supply chain without clear vessel identity, landing records, lot segregation, and digital traceability, it creates room for species substitution, illegal, unregulated, unreported, linked product mixing, and it also exposes forced labor and quality risks to hide inside the chain. I was just going through one article that has given two examples of poor traceability. One of the examples was the Mexican example that shows that 38% of sampled fish in markets and restaurants was mislabeled. And there is this NGO called Oceana. That NGO linked this research to weak traceability, and they also said that since we don't have a journey from boat to plate, and this missing information is actually causing all these issues. One of the other examples quoted was of the Southeast Pacific squid, which is the world's largest squid fishery, and that accounts for 42% of global squid landings in 2023. So this example shows that it's being a large and transnational fleet, a weak oversight can make it very hard for buyers to know whether seafood is tied to IUU activity or labor abuse, right? So these two examples shows that one case is about fraud at the market and the other is about opacity at the fishing end. And as per FAO, around 20% of seafood is affected by some form of fraud, which is like species substitution. And if the global fraud rate is already around 1/5 of seafood, then weak traceability is not a side issue. It is the control point that determines whether markets can trust what they buy. So, question to you, sir, when you look at cases like these, what do they tell us about the real cost of poor traceability?
First of all, I would like to tell that during our initial discussion, I told that India stands forehead with respect to quality. That even includes traceability. India's product produced is verified by EU. Most of the companies in India are EU approved plants, which even starts from the harbor to the container. And to and forth, what do you call it? When you do to and forth inspections, you can see that the traceability is very clear. You can get within 1 or 2 hours, you get the traceability in most of the processing plants in India. The credibility of Indian processors lies there. That is what I told, that Indian processors lie in quality first. And coming back to certification, coming back to sustainability, we are on the process. MSC has chain of custody standard, which is looking from boat, which is the start point is decided by the cab. It can be the boat, it can be the harbor. It depends upon the cab which decides which should be the starting point. From there to the end consumer, we have the traceability. We have the MSC chain of custody going ahead.
So recently,
In
Oh,
addition
sorry.
to this, we also need to include for future a digital traceability system where it needs to align with our Government of India traceability framework. So basically, India is not affected by these type of informations. Seafood frauds, India never stands in seafood frauds. Indian reports, there are no Indian reports in the seafood export. We are not, India is not reported anywhere in seafood fraud. IUU fishing, no. Labor, no. So you can see here, Indian rules and regulations are so stringent and strong. And it makes us easy to move forward with sustainability certifications. And that's why our Indian export organizations are getting very fast, EU certification. All processing plants are getting EU certified because we maintain quality and we are in quality. But what you told, we need to trace back the traceability part, need to be organized. It need to get organized. We need to have the framework that framework is already there. Now we need to have it a digitally arranged framework. The same thing applies to fish meal also. Fish meal traceability also. It's very important. Otherwise, the same issue we may happen in fish meal.
So people say that achieving traceability in fish meal is not that easy. And if it happens, then it is revolutionary. What is your take on that?
Yeah, nothing is impossible. Impossible. Fish meal, you go for a single species fishery. What is the problem in getting it back to the system? You get, imagine, I'm just telling you, imagine a purseiner, a group of purseners from Karnataka, from one port, getting only sardine catches, certify the boats, the catch comes to fish meal plants, have a MSc COC there, having an MSc COC, go back to the feed mill. You have an MSc COC for the feed mill. Go back to the farm. You have ASC there. You have MSc COC for the farm also. Go back to the processing plant where you have MSc COC. The chain is there. Nothing is impossible unless you be in the field. You be there and have the concept in mind. Nothing is impossible. But sitting in a different place and doing that will not happen. But we have to sit in the field and do it.
So India has launched a digital traceability framework, and MSc is a GDST partner. Like you said, nothing is impossible. When it comes to having interoperable systems implemented in India, what kind of work do you think needs to go into integrating the current institutions into one backbone? So we have CAA, we have MPEDA, we have EIC. What is the
Yeah,
level of that you see integrating all these three backbones into one backbone and making interoperability possible in Indian systems?
yeah. I have not worked in traceability part till now because we are just working on. We need to do a trial part over that. Unless we find the bottlenecks. I cannot explain that. But the
So,
initial thing is
so you feel that there are bottlenecks?
there will 100% there will be bottlenecks. Whatever work you do, you will have bottlenecks. There is no job easy. We need to find out the bottlenecks. We need to close the bottlenecks. For that, we need to do a basic trial. Starting from, if it is fish meal, starting from fish meal. If it is for seafood, we need to do from seafood. Now, seafood, we have just initiated 2-3 trials. We are just trying to see how it is going to get implemented.
So can you speak about those trials? Like what
No,
trials are
no,
you
no, no.
talking?
It's that trials. It's just only in concept things which is not out. So
But what is the objective of that trial?
objective
What is it?
objective is only to see how the traceability works on, starting from even if it is from a fish meal, if it is from a fish meal, or if it is from a seafood, from boat to the end processor, only the COC part, only the COC, chain of custody part, not the fishery part. Because now we are on the implementation part of the fishery part. So that is why we are doing that.
How much willing are the processors to shift to a digital traceability platform?
Processors are interested to have a traceability work because they are now implementing a lot of things in catch data, digital catch data traceability part. They are having negotiation with many groups on that part.
So India has right now launched digital traceability framework, and MSC is a GTST partner. India being India having fragmented systems, how does MSC contribute to making India's data genuinely interoperable with global systems?
MSC already have a chain of custody standard which is developed and it is being implemented world over. In India, what is first thing is we need to see how this chain of custody can be implemented in India. First thing, I think so, we need to identify the bottlenecks in the traceability system, starting from boat to the processing plant. What are the bottlenecks? For that, I think so, we need to initially start with some trials, see what can be the expected bottlenecks, how we can mitigate the bottlenecks, and move forward. Once that part is done physically, then we can see how a digital traceability can be implemented. Already processing plants have the digital traceabilities they have, but from the fishery to processing plant, we need to make it further fine-tuned. For that, I think so, we need to have a basic trial with some funding and things so that we can identify the bottlenecks. We need to identify the bottlenecks. What can be the bottlenecks? Unless we do, we cannot tell that. And and we can do that also. Because seafood processing plant and seafood sector are well planned and managed. Their traceability system in processing plant is well managed. Because I am aware of that. They are well managed. Only the part from before entering processing plant, we need to manage it. We need to find out how it can be managed.
Okay, and who all are the actors involved in doing this pilot?
Fishermen should be involved. Auctioneers should be involved. If there is a pre-processing plant, it need to be involved. Processing plant should be involved. So these are the key factors to be involved, key stakeholders who are involved. Into that, we need a funding agency who is supporting that program. I think so CIFT should be involved because CIFT looks into the quality and traceability in their program. And it will be good if EMPADA is also involved.
How can buyers support suppliers navigating that complexity instead of just buying blindly from those FIPs?
Basically, first of all, I would like to say that the seafood FIPS, which are now in action, are already active. And some of the FIPS are funded even by the buyers, which are being followed up. The Kerala shrimp, cephalopod shrimp fishery FIP, one of the major buyer is from Japan. He follows weekly with me and the FIP manager and SSNA. Weekly, they are following up. What is the status? What is the progress? Why they delay? So it's happening. The buyers are following up, happening. Rest of the FIPS, also, we occasionally get mails and they ask us how it is being followed, what is the delay, is there any issue? So it is being followed up. There is one FIP in our system which is inactive. It's because lack of funding. Because that is MS Swaminathan Foundation was funded by an other group. But the funding stopped. So only semisulcatus is not moving forward, but it is inactive. Rest all FIPs are active. So that's what I wanted to tell you.
Do you think documenting the real stories, the real progress of FIPS is important to differentiate between FIPS which are progressing and FIPS which stay in the system just for the sake of it?
All the buyers will be happy if they get a documented story of which is happening. That's a fact. Because what I feel is if they get the updates like this, that will help them. That will help them. Remaining in paper, I don't think no buyer will be interested.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, I think so. Because in the seafood sector, it is like that. Nobody is interested to just remain in paper. They want it to get it progressed. Because that's why that's why the FIP is comprehensive FIP.
Okay. Great, sir. It was a pleasure having you. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
No final thoughts. Only my final thought is the first thing I told. In order to keep India at forefront, all need to work as a team and be together. That's it.
Right. Great. Thank you for your patience. We have taken about 4 hours, 4 to 4.5 hours. Thank you so much for your patience. And before we sign off, I'll just make my closing note. So, what I'm taking away from this is that India has the foundation, the scale, the science, the people. What we are missing is the coordination, the speed, and the storytelling. And this conversation shows that the fifth debate is not a reason to lose faith in sustainability. It's a reason to do it better, more transparently, and with fishermen at the center. For my listener, if you are a buyer, a policymaker, a retailer, or a processor who believes India's marine fisheries deserve to be a part of the global sustainability story, this conversation is a starting point, not an ending. At Aquabeats, we will keep documenting the stories that show what responsible really looks like, because trust is not built in a boardroom, it is built wave by wave. I'm Richa Gupta, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you.